I'll try to jump in here in a little bit if I can.
All right. All right, we're
But I
alive.
don't even I don't know anything that's going on with it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hello. Hello. So today we're going to be talking about Supreme Court reforms that Biden has been trying to propose and hopefully implement. At least for me, I would like to talk about it and possibly have it put in place. Because the very first episode, when we were talking about the Supreme Court, I had actually said I think some Supreme Court reforms would be good, make it more democratic, and just make the process more transparent. And Biden is working towards doing that. So obviously, I'm going to support it.
Well, I disagree that these are even like okay. We all know that I fucking hate democracy, but I would
Yeah.
not even wager that these Supreme Court reforms are democratic at all. My thesis on what the purpose of these reforms are is to give yet even more power to the executive branch over the Supreme Court, and I don't like that. I would rather have the Supreme Court stay how it is and shitty rather than for reasons we've discussed in the past, like I don't believe in judicial review and things like
Yeah.
that. But that's a different discussion. But I see this as a takeover by it's a power grab by the executive branch to basically nullify the third branch of government.
Well, if that were like truly the case, then why not just pack the court? There's nothing that's
That's literally
anti-constitutional.
one of the things. Well, that's literally one of the things he wants to do. That's
No,
one of
that was
the
something that was proposed by other people, but he has refused to for the last 4 years that he's been in office, and has refused to afterwards
no.
even.
In this recent one, he said he was going to add like 3 more justices.
I never saw anything like that. What I have seen though is that it's going to be 18 years term limits. So it's not lifetime. And then just like
I don't care about that, to be honest. I don't care about that.
And then making it more transparent in the sense that like they have to, like, they can't be like political, they can't like take bribes or anything. They have to make their finances like publicly available basically, and like just a bunch of other stuff in revolves to like transparency in the Supreme Court, which I'm sure you and me would both support, right?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Yes, but the problem is, how do you enforce that? And this is the issue, is that all of his reforms are executive branch related. So the executive branch would have oversight over this. And I don't like that because we already have processes in, like for example, he wants to do ethics stuff. Like the whole, he wants, like the bribery thing and things like that. The Congress and the Senate already have ways to investigate and do impeachments and all that stuff. We don't need the executive branch taking on its own powers over the court when that is something that is already a duty of the legislature. If you don't like it, write to your legislature and say, "Hey, why aren't you guys investigating the court? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?"
Well, isn't the whole thing about checks and balances, isn't it okay for both branches to be able to check and balance the Supreme Court as well? Isn't that also a good thing?
The checks and balances are created, though, in a specific way to ensure that one branch doesn't have more powers than the other. So the reason why the Senate, the Congress, and the Senate, the reason why the Congress has the ability to impeach and the Senate has the ability to remove is so that you have 2 different branches within the same branch of government balancing each other out. So maybe one branch is clinically insane and the other one isn't, and so they can balance each other out. But if you give the ability for the executive to do things like that, such as enforce ethics rules and stuff like that, you're giving undue power to the president, who is literally the dictator of the executive branch. So whatever he says goes, and you're giving him way too much power. Like the founders, as it was originally envisaged, is that the president would be very powerful in a very narrow range of things, and now it's almost the opposite. The president is like ultra powerful in almost all facets of government now. It's honestly kind of scary.
Another thing proposed by Biden in this bill as well, and it's going to hopefully be a constitutional amendment, which is what he wants, is the criminal immunity stuff that we had talked about before that we both didn't like. He wants to make sure that they can be criminally prosecuted. while in office.
Okay, again, we can already do that with impeachments and removal. We can already do that.
We talked about all this. When it comes to Supreme Court decision, like, you really cannot criminally prosecute the president. You really, like, it's
You can. It is possible. It was going to happen to Nixon. He just resigned before it could actually happen. And
because there was precedent that presidents didn't have criminal immunity. It was only like civil immunity for very specific things.
No.
But criminal immunity is a very different thing.
No, it's not.
So you're saying criminal and civil
versus... Hold on. Okay, well, I didn't realize we were going to get into discussion about that whole thing, about how the executive... So the president is immune from crimes that he commits while president, because in theory, like, for example, so, like, president's head of the armed forces, right?
Sure, yeah.
The armed forces goes out and kills people, right?
Yes.
Like, okay, so murder is illegal unless you're in a state of war or you're in conflict or whatever. And so the president is responsible for everyone who goes to war and kills people. Now, not everyone who goes to war and kills people does it for the right reasons, or they may do it legally, illegally, or whatever. The president has to be immune from prosecution, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to execute those duties of war fighting and things like that without threat.
No, hold on. In terms of wartime and stuff, like, if an individual does something bad, it doesn't go back to, like, the president unless he directly said to kill civilians like that. But rather, it's the individual that did the act is the one that gets criminally prosecuted.
But that's the issue, is that what is or isn't legal or illegal. And so that's where it gets kind of murky, and that's why the only way you can prosecute a president is if you impeach and remove them from office, because the whole idea behind that is that the president would be immune unless he obviously did something wrong and everyone agreed that he did something wrong.
Well, that's the whole thing with, like, criminal prosecution stuff in general, is that, like, there has to be some sort of general agreement that this person did it beyond a shadow of a doubt for that criminal prosecution. Yes. That's the whole thing. So
yes,
you're
exactly right.
But that's for individuals like me and you two as well. Like, just for us, for any civilian, it's still the exact same case. Okay, so
you're walking down the street and you kill someone, and everyone in your town, like, by the letter of the law, you have committed murder. But no one in your town prosecutes you. Everyone in your, like, no jury will convict you, no cop will arrest you, no judge will issue a warrant for your arrest. Did you commit a crime?
Well, in theory, yes, you did, but under the legal pretense, technically no, because you were found to be innocent.
I mean, that's literally what I'm saying. Then that's exactly what I'm saying with the president. Like, it's no different.
But the whole thing is about the immunity, though, right? It's not like me and you. We don't have immunity in the sense of, like, criminal or civil liability. The president and other people, like other officials, have that civil liability, but there's been no actual precedent for criminal liability. But now the Supreme Court has dictated that criminal liability is a part of the immunity, as long as it's part of a core act of the president.
Yes, and I mean, okay, then this gets onto another discussion about how I've been discussing positivist interpretations of the Constitution and negativist. I'm a negativist. Yeah. I believe that if it's not explicitly written in the Constitution, it doesn't fucking exist. Everyone else in the fucking United States disagrees with that. That's fine, but if that's the case, then the Supreme Court, and I just want to make sure that we're all clear. I don't think the president should be immune. I think the president should basically have to ask permission of Congress to do anything. So
then you partially agree with this, then, right? Because he's trying to make an actual constitutional amendment saying that criminal, like, they don't have criminal liability, criminal.
They
can be prosecuted.
No, hold on. This is a completely different discussion. You're saying, therefore, because I think this is about the executive branch, we should do the same thing with the judicial branch. Yes, but I don't agree with the method of how Biden is doing it. That's the issue. I don't agree
Through a
with
constitutional
the method.
amendment, you always say, hey, if you want to,
hold on, motherfucker, hold the fuck on. Not all constitutional amendments were good. The
I
freaking
know.
19th Amendment, shit. The freaking 18th Amendment, shit. The 17th, or wait, no. The 18th Amendment, sorry. The 19th Amendment, good. The 18th Amendment, bad. The 17th Amendment, bad. The 16th Amendment, bad. I don't, just because it's a fucking constitutional amendment.
No, I understand, but you're always, I know, but you're always saying that if you want to create a change, then it shouldn't be through precedent. You should make an amendment to change it. And Biden is directly doing this. He's not doing some sort of executive action or anything or precedent. He is doing an actual constitutional amendment saying that this is now enshrined. That former presidents cannot be immune and can be prosecuted for crimes committed while in office.
No, wait, hold on. He's doing this. No, he's not. He's doing the Supreme Court.
That's part
different.
of it. That's part of the proposal.
No, it is not. No, it is not. It is. This is not. This has nothing. His Supreme Court reforms have nothing to do with the executive branch and all that. It has nothing to do with it at all. This Supreme Court reforms are all about the executive branch taking more power and centralizing more power under the president.
So,
which I'm against more than anything else.
I'm still don't know how exactly being able to, like, for the three branches to be able to investigate each other. How is that enshrining more power?
We already have that. It's called the legislature has the ability to impeach and remove. That's it. We already have that. Why does the president need the power to do that? Why does the president need more power?
Why not give all three branches the ability to investigate each other?
Well, okay. Well, because not all three branches function the same way. The presidency is a dictatorship. It literally says in the Constitution, in Article 2. Wait, hold. No. But so the executive is literally a dictatorship, but the legislature is not. The legislature is like as close to democracy as America gets, and then the Supreme Court is basically an oligarchy. So each branch functions differently. They have different characteristics.
Yeah, they function. And so they each function differently, but this doesn't have any precedent over investigation. Why can't each of the three branches investigate each other? So that way, not one single branch has the ability to.
That's it. They literally function differently. The whole point. The whole reason why the judiciary. Wait. Hold on. The reason why the judiciary can't do that is the same reason why a judge cannot investigate crimes, because the whole point of a judge is not to enforce the law. All the judge is there for is to act as an arbiter between two parties that have an issue with each other. That's it. So you can't have an impartial judge who is getting involved in the investigation, which is the whole point of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is a judge, basically.
Jeez. Okay.
I know you don't. I know you don't see it that way, but that's literally how it is. Characteristically, the judicial branch functions differently than the executive branch and the legislature.
Well, yes, I'm not disagreeing that they function differently. In a sense, they do different things. But again, I don't see how investigating or like being able, or like saying like, hey, disclose these documents, disclose gifts, disclose don't refrain from political activities.
Okay, how would the court conduct an investigation on the president and then be party to his impeachment trial or whatever? How would they do that?
It's more than just investigation. It's about being able to. It's about being able to.
Wait. Hold on. You said why can't the three branches investigate each other?
So okay, how about this? A single judge can want to do an investigation, but they have to refrain from being able to like reside over it. Is that?
So then we have 8. Then we have 8 justices.
This is already a thing that Biden's already proposed,
and
the thing is like, hey, if this. It's not about the investigation stuff, but like, hey, if a judge is involved in like something and they're being investigated, then they have to refrain from judging over themselves.
No, so like that's not
same thing.
I'm asking. Wait, hold on. I'm not asking about how any of the Supreme Court justices act in any trial. I'm asking how does the Supreme Court the judicial branch as a branch of government, how does it investigate the president? How does the branch of the judiciary do that?
An individual within it can be like, hey, there's something going on here. Let me investigate this. And then they can investigate it, and they have to, they can try to do all that stuff, but they have to reside from being able to judge over it. There's already stuff involved that in regards to that.
This literally doesn't make any sense, because this doesn't happen anywhere else in any sector of society. There's no court anywhere in the U.S. who does this at all.
A judge cannot reside over their own thing, and each judge can be investigated by other people, by other parts of that state. They can be investigated to see, like, hey, is there something like fishy going on with this person? Can you disclose your documents? Can you do this? Can you do that? There's already precedent on the state level, but nothing on the Supreme Court level.
I don't know, man. I don't know how else to explain it. The way you're looking at it, it's very idealistic, but it just does not work that way, because, again, the whole point of the judiciary is to be a referee. A referee can't investigate and judge at the same time.
That's what I'm saying, is that they shouldn't judge. I already said they shouldn't judge over it. I said they refrain from judging over it, and the other justices have to be the judge. But that one person that's investigating has to stay away from it.
No, that's not how it works.
Well, that's something that I'm not saying that's how it works right now, but I'm saying is that that's how it should work. Each branch should be able to investigate each other. Individuals should be able to investigate each other in some way.
No, the reason why we have the legislature do this stuff is because it's really easy to remove the legislature, like individual legislatures. I mean, we would have to do a lot of reforms if we were going to propose what you were doing. We would basically have to have judges be elected, which is a really fucking bad idea, and just stuff like that. Like, presidents only last 4 years at the very least, but 8 years at most. And then the legislature, it's either 4 years or 6. Is it? I forget. Is it 4 or 6 years? Yeah, it's 4 and 6 years, and that's it. It's over. It's easy to remove people in the legislature, but like for the fucking judiciary, we'd have to do a lot more reforms than what's being proposed right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I want to fully reform the Supreme Court to be, at least in my idea, would be better. Well, you would disagree, but we can have these disagreements. But like, I'm sure you're not against at least the 18-year term limit for justices. You said you're not against that.
I don't really care. I mean, listen, I wouldn't give a fuck about the Supreme Court, about what goes on in it, if it wasn't the final determination of what the Constitution means. I disagree with that. I don't think the court gets to determine what the Constitution means. So I just have issues in general with that.
But I remember when you were talking about it before, and you said that this favors Democrats.
Dude,
like
okay, you're getting caught up on this tiny detail when you're completely missing the point that I don't think the Supreme Court should even be involved in it in the first place. Like, I don't know why you're so obsessed with getting me to say, oh, well, you agree with term limits. I don't give a fuck about term limits if the court isn't involved in determining what the Constitution means to begin with.
I was bringing on to something else, and I said that you said before that what's been proposed here favors. Frustrated. Well, I'm saying we discussed this before, and you had said that this is going to favor Democrats more than anyone else, and I'm asking, why do you think that?
It is.
And I'm asking why specifically.
These reforms.
Yes.
Well, right. Well, okay. It'll be good for Democrats right now because the Democrats control the executive.
Well, sure, but but why is it solely favor Democrats and no one else? Like, if Republican came into power
right now. Well, okay. In general, I don't want one branch to dominate the other one. I don't like right now. Just in general, I think the executive branch dominates all the branches right now. I think the executive is so absurdly powerful, and I don't like it in general. Everyone's crying about Project 2025 when the reality is any president could implement their own version of Project 2025 right now. Biden could do his own version right now if he wanted to. And I don't like that in general. And if you don't like Project 2025, you should be against the executive having the power that he has right now. But instead of being annoyed that the president is absurdly powerful, we're quibbling over these honestly really small mechanics of how a single branch of government functions. Like it's completely absurd to me.
So we've discussed before that we're both against like absolute power being in the federal government and want to limit that power for the most part. We just disagree on how much, but we both want to limit it. We're not opposed to that, but when it comes to like Project 2025, yes, theoretically Biden or any other Democrat or whatever could enact policies to make themselves like supreme like god leader of the US, which is why there's a fear about Project 25 in the sense that Trump is like the fear that Trump is actually going to do this, whereas there's not a fear that Biden's going to do this because we all know Biden's like milquetoast.
And to be honest, Trump would be a fool if he didn't do it because honestly, I think the Democrats next time around are going to implement their own version. So like we're at this point, this weird like Mexican standoff where both sides have to shoot each other. It's really terrible. I fucking hate it.
I don't think the Democrats would do that. If I'll bite the bullet on that. If Kamala wins and in the next 4 years she runs again and it's like and they try to do their own 2025, I will completely disavow it, obviously. And I'll bite the bullet right now and say I don't think that's gonna happen, but if it does, I would disavow it entirely.
Well, okay. I mean, that already happens already to a very limited extent because whenever any president comes into power, except for Trump, because honestly, Trump is a very incompetent politician and a really incompetent administrator in general. Most of the time, when a new president comes in, they clean house on. For example, they'll get a bunch of generals to resign because they can't. Like this happened with Obama, but Bush did this too, and it goes all the way back where a president will come in and they'll basically like go to every general and say, hey, if I ordered you to do XYZ, would you do it? And if the general like hesitated, they would basically ask for their resignation. This happens like with every presidency. Like we're already 80% of the way to Project 2025 as it is.
I think it's more so about that final push than it is anything else. And the Heritage Foundation and Trump are trying to do that final push, whereas Biden and other Democrats they haven't done that push and have actually been trying to reel back the federal, and especially with Biden's thing about the constitutional amendment, which me and you would support.
No, I don't agree with. I don't think that just because it's a constitutional amendment, it's a good thing. But so if anything, wait, hold on. If anything, the federal government has grown in power not only under Biden, but under Trump, under Obama, under Bush, and we can go back and back and back. And the executive has only grown in power. So, like, I don't agree with you.
So the constitutional amendment that Biden has proposed is to ensure that former presidents are not immune from prosecution for criminal acts committed while in office. Me and you have already agreed presidents should not be immune from this and should be able to be prosecuted. And so
they can't be right now.
Jeez. Well, okay, whatever.
Literally right now, any president, Jimmy Carter, could be fucking prosecuted right now.
Whatever. Okay.
I'm dead serious. Like you don't think it's possible, but it's just because it hasn't happened. But we could literally do it right now.
Well, no, it's the thing is that there's been precedent for it to happen, and then the Supreme Court said, hey, by the way, they are now immune from criminal acts altogether.
No.
There's been precedent. That's why Nixon tried to resign because he wasn't immune, and then the Supreme Court just now said that they're immune. There's precedent for all this stuff previously that presidents are not immune from criminal acts.
No, I don't know where you're reading this, but literally it says, like, I think it was Thomas who said, if you want to prosecute a president, impeach and remove him. It was either Thomas or Alito who literally wrote that in their concurrence.
Impeachment is the beginning of the process. We've already talked about this before. But impeachment isn't the actual removal itself, but rather the process to begin removing.
That's why I've been saying impeach and remove this whole time.
But again, we've also talked about this before. If you can't even investigate in the first place, then
the Congress can investigate.
You can't investigate
The
core
Congress-
acts of the you cannot investigate core acts
yes,
of the
you
president.
can. Yes, you
cannot
can.
you cannot
can.
ask
That is-
for you cannot ask for anything if it is a core act of the president. There's already been stuff
Then you
regarding
impeach.
this.
Then you know what you do. Then you know what you do. You impeach and remove him. Bam.
Jesus.
You
All
can.
right, whatever.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with impeachment. Impeachment is it's kind of insane how absurdly powerful impeachment and removal is, because impeachment is not. It's not a judicial process. And I don't know how many times I have to tell you this. It is not a judicial process. It's a political process. Which means it's a vote. You can just do it. You can do it whenever you want.
But
You
we're
don't have
talking
to have
about
an investigation.
But hold on. But I also look at precedent, and there's been no precedent for this whatsoever. And I'm looking at what has been done in the past. And again, this has not been done before. What has been done though is that there has been a judicial process involved with impeachment. So I'm looking at that and not what could theoretically happen.
Can I tell you why? Well, okay, one, stop looking at the judicial process. It has nothing to do with the Congress at all. Two, the reason why it has never happened is because the president is always a member of one of the two parties that makes up the bulk of the House and the Senate. And of course, the parties are not going to investigate their own members because political parties are corrupt. Now, that's just the reality of it. Now, if we want to change our voting system so that political parties aren't like the main things, we could try to do that. I don't know how to do that, but like that's the only way to get rid of that issue.
I'm just looking at precedent for what has been done, and every single time there's been an impeachment inquiry, it has always led to a judicial process, not a political process, just a judicial one, where there is investigations.
What judicial process? What judicial process?
There's investigations, and there's
what judicial
investigations, and
process?
I am discussing it right now. Fucking stop, Jesus. There's investigations and process.
Okay.
What do you mean no?
Go ahead, sorry.
Jesus.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
So there's an investigation. So there's the impeachment inquiry
By
where
who?
it's like, hey,
By
I
who?
believe that this happens, and we're
By
going to
who?
investigate it. What?
By who?
By the opposing party. Usually.
Who's the opposing party? Who? When I say who, I'm asking specifically what group or entity.
The Republicans are
judicial branch?
Democrats.
The Republican Party?
For Biden, there was an impeachment inquiry for stuff going on with his son. And
by the Republican Party?
By the Republicans in the Senate, I believe it is.
Okay, so the Senate is conducting an investigation because the Senate is right now is barely Republican majority.
But they're conducting an investigation for the
impeachment actually,
inquiry.
Wait, it's actually, isn't it Democrat majority right now?
I think it is right now.
Yeah, so the Republican minority is investigating, because here's the other thing: the legislative branch, they have all these committees and stuff.
Wait, hold on. Maybe it is Republican majority. Because there was supposed to be that red wave in 2022 that never happened. But
the House is
it the House?
The House has like three person majority.
I know one has. I know. Like Democrats and Republicans have a majority in each of the two things.
The majority in the Senate is like 51-49, and there was that one vote. There's been a couple votes where Kamala Harris has had to break the tie because it was a 50-50 split. So,
but anyways, so there is an impeachment inquiry. This has happened under Trump like 2 or 3 times. It happened under Biden where there's an impeachment inquiry, but Trump actually did get impeached and Biden didn't because there was a process involved, which is investigations and stuff, and they found wrongdoings. So they pushed it forward and it passed for Trump, but not for Biden because they haven't found anything for Biden. But there has been a process that involves investigations and stuff. And the problem is with really this first step in the sense that when you have this not really diverse, like these polar opposites, Democrats and Republicans, then you need to have some evidence put forward to be able to be like, hey, this needs to go forward so that we can further investigate once the process starts, the impeachment process starts.
Okay. The issue, like I said earlier, is that the president, it doesn't matter which president, the president is always a member of either the Democrats or Republicans. And like I said, the Democrats and or the Republicans, both parties, will not investigate their own man. That is just how it works. I don't like it.
There has been cases,
works.
but there has been impeachment inquiries and stuff that have gone through to actual impeachments multiple times throughout different presidencies.
Which ones?
Clinton, Trump had 2.
Which had a Republican majority.
And then Trump had 2 as well.
Trump is the only one that the Republican majority impeached him, and that's because Trump at the time was at odds with the Republican Party. Like, he was a Republican Party outsider.
Yes, but and then there's one more. I don't remember. It's one of the first couple of presidents, I think.
There was Nixon, but I think I think it was the Democrats. I think the Democrats were the majority in that.
Nixon was never impeached. He was never actually impeached. He resigned before he did.
Hold on. There was an investigation by, if I recall correctly, the Democratic Party, who had the majority in the House, and they were doing the investigation, and the evidence was so damning against Nixon that even the Republican Party, his own party, was going to get on board with impeaching and removing him.
But anyways, Nixon was never fully impeached.
And then he got removed and pardoned.
Yeah, later. Well, he wasn't removed. He retired, and then.
Well, sorry, he resigned, and then he was pardoned.
And then he was pardoned by Ford.
Ford.
Yeah. But there was one other president in history that was impeached. I can't remember. Was it like Andrew? Something?
Yeah, it was Andrew Johnson.
Was it Andrew Johnson? I was thinking that. Yeah.
And then Grant was almost impeached because his presidency was like one of the most corrupt presidencies of all time.
Sure. Yes. But there's been only 4 impeachments that have actually gone through, and it was Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Trump twice.
Yeah, and the reason why is because usually the opposing party, in half of them, the opposing party controlled the House. They just didn't control the Senate. In all of them, I mean, literally, like in the Trump ones, the reason why he didn't get removed is because he had enough allies in the Senate to stand against it.
But we're just looking at precedent, because I don't care what the process you think could happen is, where they control both the House and Senate and can impeach anyone for any reason whatsoever, including I just don't like them. There's been no actual precedent for that, but rather there's been precedent of investigations and actual processes involved.
Then the disagreement that you and I are going to have forever and ever is that I am a constitutional negativist, and I look at what the Constitution says, and I read what it literally says, and that is the conclusion I'm coming to. So we can literally right now, if we want to, if we had the political stones to do so, we could impeach and remove and prosecute any former president. I mean, the way I read the impeachment and removal thing is that literally the House and the Senate can impeach and remove anyone in the federal government at all. So when I was a Marine, they could have impeached me if they wanted to. That's how I read it.
Okay. And I wouldn't quite say fully a positivist, I don't know, but I'm looking at I'm looking at precedent, and I put that as more as okay, this is how things have been run, and this is how things should be run or currently are run. Okay. And that's that. It's based off of the Constitution, but it's also precedent as well, which also matters. Precedent does matter.
So here's my question to you about precedent then.
Okay.
Do you think that the House and the Senate are looking at how the Nixon impeachment or almost impeachment went, or the Andrew Johnson almost impeachment, or the Trump impeachment trials? Do you think they're looking at those and coming to the conclusion, well, this is how we have to do it because this is how those were run?
Part of it could be that, but also the part of it could be the political will, and as well as how unpopular it would be for them to just unilaterally decide that we don't like this person, therefore impeachment. That's also there's a combination of all that stuff.
Well, I agree more with the fact that there's a lack of political will, and the lack of political will stems from the fact that the president is always a member of one of the two political parties.
So you don't think there's anything where it's the people would like completely like have complete disdain for them if they basically elected the president?
What people?
Us
What people?
people, the people that elect
So
the
the
officials, the
Americans.
voters. Yes, the American, like me and you,
Okay,
the American
so
voters. If
so
we
here's
elected a
here's
president and then
go
the
ahead.
and then the House and the Senate were like, we just don't like this person, so we're just gonna impeach him just because we don't like him. Like, you don't think there's gonna be a lot of like disdain or anything like that? There's nothing there.
I think that's the reason why Trump wasn't removed from office both times. It's because the president is kind of like, this is more of like a philosophical thing, but like the president is kind of like the representation of the United States in general. And so I think it's really hard to go after the president because in a lot of ways, most Americans kind of, whether you like the president or not, most Americans kind of feel like you're going after America when you go after the president. And so I don't think most politicians have the stomach to want to go after, like you were saying earlier, the political will to go after a president because they will be seen as maybe going against America, even if the president is fairly unpopular, like Trump was. Like it's really hard to do that because the president, it requires so much of a large polity to elect a president.
Okay. But yeah, we're just we'll have like a forever disagreement on this. I don't know if we'll have like a solid middle ground because I guess I'm more of a positivist and you're a negativist type person.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
that's the issue. You read the Constitution and then you look at what people have done in the past, whereas I only look at what people or what you look at what people have done in the past, whereas I look at what the Constitution allows. And the Constitution, I think, is a very limiting document. But in the places it's not limited, it gives a lot of power to very specific branches of government. Like I said, the president. If you literally read Article 2, the president is literally a dictator of the executive branch, which is insanely powerful.
And so if you could have your ideal like Supreme Court, because we're supposed to be talking about Supreme Court reforms and stuff, if you could reform the Supreme Court to like your political will, what is your ideal?
The court would not decide what is or isn't constitutional. The court, all they would do is they would basically be arbiters between parties in dispute. That's it.
Just like regular
And
judges, like on the state and federal level, basically.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't limit the court to 9 judges. I mean, I don't know how I would do this exactly, but I would have like, I would have the court, the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court specifically act as like, they would just basically be a jury in a trial. Like there would be a convening of a jury, and then it would just be a innocent or guilty verdict or whatever. Whoever was right or wrong, and that's it. It would just be they would just be a jury, and that's it. They wouldn't be the ones who are like saying what the Constitution means and things like that. Because I don't think that's what any court system does, or they should do.
Yeah. Okay.
So I like my reforms would be fairly simple. It would just be like judicial review it would basically be judicial review isn't a thing, and the court is just a jury.
So why not?
Maybe you might have one judge who's an arbiter.
So why not remove the Supreme Court altogether and just have federal judges that do that stuff?
Why not? I mean, in theory.
So
wait. So here's the thing. You need a Supreme Court because literally in Article 3 it says, I think the words, I forget the exact words, but it's like the power of the judiciary shall be invested in a Supreme Court. So
sure.
We do need a Supreme Court, but there's nothing that says we need 7 justices. There's 7 justices or 5 justices, and
that's the whole thing for packing the court, right? That's that whole thing for packing the court. But I'm just asking for your ideal system because I'm sure you would agree that Constitution isn't perfect. And I'm asking for your ideal system. Would there be a Supreme Court? And basically, what you've been saying is probably not. And like just what you've been describing, if they do these very specific things. So at that point, you just have federal judges.
Well, I mean, the Supreme Court they are federal judges, but in fact, the legitimacy of federal judges is derived from the Supreme Court. My issue isn't like reforms in the Constitution necessarily. My issue would be reforms in our thinking about how the Supreme Court functions.
I mean, yeah, I understand that, but like, I'm asking for your ideal system. Like, would there be a Supreme Court, not just based on the Constitution, just in your ideal system?
How it's written in the Constitution, just everyone understands the way I understand it. That's my reform.
Okay, so what would you change about the Constitution if you could?
I get rid of the 16th, 17th, and the 16th and 17th Amendments. First of all,
so just amendment stuff. There's nothing in terms of like the actual Constitution in terms of how the government process is run.
That's how you fix the Constitution is you amend it.
I'm just saying your ideal system, right? Like if you were doing your own founding document, if you were doing your own founding document,
I mean,
what would you change?
Well, I'd get rid of all the slavery stuff first of all. Like get rid of all that cancer.
Sure.
I would keep a lot of the Constitution because when you read it, it's really intelligently written. Again, my issue is that like people interpret the Constitution this really weird way that's like it's this living document where we can just change what things mean on the fly rather than changing how it functions mechanically.
Okay.
Like my issue in general with how things are run is due to the fact that like people have this really wonky way of looking at how our system functions, and I don't think most people understand because I don't think most people have read the Constitution or know American history or know the liberal philosophy that underpins it or anything like that. And so I feel like I'm screaming into the wind because nobody knows how. I feel like when I talk to people, I'm speaking a different language because people they don't have the concept of what I'm saying in general.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have this disagreement forever, I guess, because I would probably change a few things in the Constitution, but whatever.
Maybe. I mean, listen, like I said, there are some things I would change. I'd get rid of all the slavery stuff. I'd get rid of the 16th and 17th Amendment. I would make I would make the Second Amendment explicitly clear that it literally means arms, as in like anything from the fucking Death Star to a fucking stick on the ground. It doesn't matter. I would make sure that it's explicitly clear that judicial review isn't a thing, which, by the way, like if you read the Constitution, judicial review isn't a thing, and the only reason why we have judicial review is because the Supreme Court, Marbury versus Madison, literally created it out of nothing, and we've just lived with it ever since. But it would just be stuff like that, like I would do a lot of clarifying things, like, hey, the purpose of the Supreme Court is to arbitrate disputes between the federal government and states, between the government and states, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Like I would just make sure that things are explicitly clear. I guess I could write out on my Schizo website about all the reforms I do.
I mean, you could, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that. Like that's the general tenor of it.
I mean, I'd probably keep a lot of that stuff. Definitely get rid of the slavery stuff, obviously. But I'd probably add a couple things, like food, water, shelter being like a universal human right, something like that.
I mean, okay. Question is, who provides it and how do they provide it? Whose responsibility is it?
Well, taxes and stuff, but taxes aren't theft.
No, whose responsibility is it? Is it the executive branch's responsibility? Is it the judicial? Is it the legislature? Like, because this is the thing. Like, the founders are very explicit in whose responsibility it is to do what.
I'd probably put it down to the states. Like, each state has to like manually do this type stuff. So each state runs their own system of these, but they have to run these things.
So you would have, I think it's under Article 4. I think that's the one that describes the duties of the states. You would say, at a bare minimum, all states have to provide food, water, shelter to all citizens or all residents of the state.
Yeah, okay. Something like that.
Okay, I disagree with that, but
I mean, yeah, well, you disagree with that system regardless because.
Yeah, but I mean, that's listen. At least you're being smart about it, and you're not just like shitting it out of whole cloth, saying, "Oh, well, this is I mean, and that's my issue, and that's why I appreciate you doing that, because you're not saying, oh, this is something the government should just, or it can do already. You're at least saying like, oh, this is something we should implement in the Constitution. And that's
Yeah, I
all
mean, like,
care about.
I generally agree with like positive and negative like liberties. I generally agree with both of those. So
I don't agree that positive liberties exist, but that's a different discussion.
well, one almost necessitates the other to exist. So
No. Positive liberties are just privileges. That's it.
well, it's about like being able to actualize your potential, right? So like if you can't actualize your potential, then even though you could in a sense do anything you could ever want, you really can't do anything because you can't actualize your potential. And if you have like, I don't know, like the ability to fully actualize all your potential, but you can't do anything with it, then you still, in both senses, you're not free, like fully.
How do positive rights allow you to actualize your potential?
Well, it's like, the idea is that like you can use like state structures or something like that to like have like universal programs or some sort of like safety net for people that like need it or something like that. Generally,
Yeah, but
they boil down to social programs.
My issue though is that they're not that positive rights. They literally are not a right, because to me, a right is something that exists in nature, in
Well,
the state of
that's why
nature,
they're not really
health.
described as rights. They're liberties rather.
They're a
Positive
privilege.
Liberties and negative liberties.
No, positive rights exist or negative rights exist in nature, and positive rights, liberties, whatever you want to call it, they are privileges that are afforded because society exists. And if society ceased existing, those wouldn't exist.
And then you wouldn't, in a sense, you wouldn't have those negative rights as well. Those negative liberties.
That's all you would have. You
But
give
if you
up
can't,
some negative.
but if you
You
can't,
give up some negative liberties. You give up like the right to murder to live in society.
oh, it's gonna go back to
Because
this. No, we're not
how can
discussing
you
it.
live?
Hold on.
How can you live in society if you have the right to murder?
No,
You don't.
we're not going to discuss those. No, because we've had this conversation numerous times. We are never going to agree with each other
Until you read Locke.
I don't even think Locke would agree.
Actually, you should read Hobbes.
Hobbes probably wouldn't agree with you either. You have the right. So the idea is that you have the right to do something as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else's rights.
Hold on. Hobbes would agree with me because I'm literally quoting Hobbes. Like, literally, when I say you have the right to murder, Hobbes literally in the Leviathan talks about how in order to live in society, you have to give the right to murder. He literally says that, like almost verbatim.
The idea behind the negative liberties and negative rights and stuff, is that you have this right to do something unless it infringes on someone else's rights. That maybe is more of a Lockean thing, but that's the idea behind it. Is that you have the right to speak, you have the right to bear arms, you have the right to do this stuff, but you don't have the right to murder or rape or anything like that because it infringes on someone else's right to not have those things happen to them.
Well, okay, though, if that's what you're saying morally you don't have the right to do that because of a moral reason, but that's different.
Well, no, it's not even really a moral thing.
Absent morality, you have the right to do whatever. You have the right to do awful things.
I wouldn't classify it as a moral thing. It's rather, you have the right to do this until it infringes on someone else's right to not have that do that. Like, if someone wants to be raped, then you, in a sense, would have the right to rape them as long as they want to, because you're not infringing on their right to not be raped. It's not a moral thing.
Well, that gets into a really sticky thing on what is, because like murder and rape and stuff are like there's an implicit infringement in the concept of murder. Like,
well, yes,
if somebody wants you to, like, murder is you are killing someone against their will, and so if someone wants you to murder them, it can't technically be murder because murder is infringement, and if they're allowing you to do it, that can't be an infringement. But so it's a sticky, it's a weird concept thing that honestly doesn't make any sense. So
Well, like, let's say I wanted to randomly be killed, and just not like any specific person, any specific way, just like I wanted to die, right? Like legally, well, like you can get into legal stuff, which tends to be moral stuff, but like that person, if someone killed that person, that would still be murder, even if they did want to die, right?
I mean, that's the issue, is that it is murder, but like conceptually it's not murder, which is why it doesn't make sense.
But like this, like these are right, like these aren't rights because it infringes on someone else's right, unless they explicitly said they wanted this to happen, in which case it probably wouldn't be that thing anymore. It would just be
State
sex, or it would just be like killing at that point, not necessarily
the
murder.
state the thing is, the state of nature doesn't care whether you're infringing on people or not. That comes later. That's a downstream issue.
But these rights, these negatives and positive rights and stuff, are because societies exist, and because society exists, then there's this implicit like idea that, hey, I don't want this to happen to me, so you don't have the right to do this, and in a sense you've never had the right to do this because it always infringes on someone else's rights regardless of what you do.
Okay. If you're going to argue literally, because societies have always existed. Hold on one sec. One sec. I'm gonna turn my camera on because the fawn and her, or the doe and her fawns.
Like we could even just be us two, like completely naked, no society whatsoever. We both have a want to not be murdered and to not be raped. So the other person, therefore, doesn't have the right to do those things either, because it is infringing on my right to not have this happen to me. Versus talking or owning something, in which case you aren't infringing on someone else's right to own something or to speak. So like there's nothing there that infringes, whereas rape and murder are infringing on someone else's right. So therefore they are not rights themselves. I see them.
Do you see the fawn?
I see them. Yeah.
And the doe, she's right there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
Like
that's more of that's a Lockean perspective, I guess. So.
Well, you have to remember, Locke also, so Hobbes was very pessimistic, whereas Locke was very optimistic. So
I'm generally an optimistic person, so.
No, I know. So I mean, the thing is that with like the state of nature, Locke didn't. You have to remember, Hobbes and Locke disagreed on what the nature of the state of nature was, which is a weird thing to think about. But Hobbes thought nature was this awful, brutal place, and man created society to get away from it. Whereas Locke believed that nature wasn't bad. It wasn't. The only reason why people joined society is because you had a greater benefit to yourself by entering into society.
Yeah.
And then Rousseau thought that the state of nature was great and that society is a prison.
Yeah.
Which I slowly, every day, I get closer and closer to Rousseau. I can feel myself every day getting closer to Rousseau.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
That's a different discussion.
I hold more of a Lockean perspective in the sense that you have the right to do this until it infringes on someone else, in which case it is no longer a right. So like things like murder, rape, or anything that we'd consider bad would not be rights in a sense. Like as long as it doesn't.
But the only reason why Locke believed that is because Locke believed that rights and morality were intrinsically linked, whereas Hobbes didn't. And this is, I agree with Locke like 95%. I just disagree that rights and morals are intrinsically linked. I believe they are separate things.
Whereas I clearly do think that they are intrinsically linked with each other. So, as we've discussed before, so.
Yeah. I mean, the only way to find out who's right or wrong is for us to go into the state of nature and survive. So let's go to Somalia, boys.
Yeah, the nature is amoral. It is not good nor bad. It's amoral.
Well, kinda. I mean, but again, Locke believed that rights and morality were linked. So.
Well, yeah, I know, but nature itself is amoral. In which case, like, no matter what happens, good, like what you could be seen as good or bad, it's there's no morality behind it. There's no moral principle guiding it towards a specific outcome.
Well, yeah, nature. I mean, literally, nature is random.
In a sense, from our perspective, yes, it's random. Yeah, from our perspective.
But I mean, that's all that matters is from our perspective.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Nature might not be random. Maybe we do live in a universe where if you know the spin cycle of every particle, in theory, you could predict the future. But
well, yeah, I
we
mean, I'm
don't
a
know that, so there's no way for us to know.
Yeah, I'm a determinist, so I do believe that everything, in a sense, happens because other things happen, and it's not. There's no intrinsic randomness to anything. However, since we will never, at least currently, we don't know the future, and we may never will. Then it to our perspective, it is random.
Yeah, well, that's a different discussion altogether.
I guess so. Yeah. So we're just about 5 minutes till the 1 hour mark. If you want to discuss some other stuff, we can.
Just
I've
by
been-
the Supreme Court reforms are stupid.
I've been drinking a beer this entire time.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, I would have been drinking, but I need to go on a run later today, so I can't.
Yeah,
drink.
I'm drinking a Mike's Harder black cherry beer.
You are such a white woman.
My friend brought them over, and I actually liked them. The only other thing I
That's
have,
such a white girlfriend.
the only other thing I have is like fucking, I don't even think it's Miller's Light or like Budweiser or some shit, and it's just not good. It's like cheap fucking beer, and it's
Budweiser is terrible.
It might be that one. It just is not good whatsoever. I cannot drink them.
I have a buddy who unironically thinks Coors Light is the best beer, and I'm like, oh my god.
No, I've had some other like really good beers. This is not even the best one that I've had. I've had other better ones. Like I think Angry Orchard is like pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, is there anything else you want to discuss?
Here's a spicy one. What do you think of Tim Walz?
Tim Walz?
Walz.
Yeah, I don't. I'll have to look into
Kamala building the walls around Trump.
I think he's definitely gonna be better for her campaign. He's very progressive. I think so. Yeah. He's more progressive. Which I'm decently progressive as well. He's like a mix between Biden and Bernie, which I kind of like both of them to an extent. So like that's kind of more so up my alley. I'm kind of in the middle of both of them as well. So
I disagree. And listen, I don't think the JD Vance pick was great for Trump, but I think Harris made a mistake by picking a super progressive because I live in one of the most progressive states in America, and even the people around here aren't as progressive as Walz is.
Yeah, but like he's generally like he's a mix between Biden and Bernie, which Bernie and Biden are both like pretty liked for the most part, or at least Biden at one point was like very liked. And people love Bernie, so and he's even more progressive than Walz is. So I think he's a nice middle between those two, as well as he's not that old either. He's like what in his 60s, so he's pretty average.
He's only retirement age. He's not, retirement age plus 20.
Yeah, he's not death age yet, so he's still got some life in him.
That's crazy.
He's also an old white male, which fits a lot of the voting demographic.
Well, I mean, this is the thing with the boomers. They're going to have power forever just because of that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just messing with that though, but it's somewhat true. But I
don't disagree.
Like he's definitely going to bring in those Palestinian supporters, which there's not many anyways, so they're not even like a good enough voting block. But at least it'll be enough it could sway the election a little bit.
Maybe.
But like currently, she's been like polling extremely well in the swing states where it matters. She's been polling extremely well.
I don't know how. That makes no sense to me.
Because Biden was so unpopular and so unliked by a lot of people, that
yes,
that any switch would have been a benefit, honestly. which I suck. I hate to admit it. The switch has been an improvement, but I would have preferred Biden over Kamala. But Kamala's all right, I guess.
I just don't see it. I see Kamala Harris as like Hillary Clinton point two, basically, like as just another
She
Hillary Clinton.
she has less controversies surrounding her than Hillary ever did. A lot less.
Well, it's because she's hasn't been in politics at the level that Clinton was at for as long.
Yeah,
But like
but like a lot of the
there's
Trump tactics are failing in the sense like he targets specific
I don't
controversies
I
and
don't
brings them
know.
to limelight, which he did under Hillary. He tried to do that under Biden and it failed. But you also have to think Trump is extremely unpopular. Like the reason why Biden won was because Trump was so unpopular and so disliked that anyone running
Well,
against him was going to win.
okay. I think literally the only reason why Trump lost is because of COVID and the lockdowns and how people felt that the whole country like the is as much as like a lot of people don't want to admit it, the lockdowns were incredibly unpopular. Especially like I think people were okay with them for the first couple of weeks, but like after year one, I think people were ready to be over with it, and the fact that it went on like almost 2 years, um, that was like I think that was a major deciding factor for the reason why people voted against Trump. And I don't think Trump would have lost the election if COVID hadn't happened, but
I
that's
think
counterfactual.
I think
But
most
oh, go
people
ahead.
nowadays would say that the lockdowns were like a bad idea or that like they're at least
Yeah,
currently very unpopular. I don't think
yeah.
anyone would really disagree with that.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that I think the reason why Trump is unpopular was unpopular, especially at the end of his presidency, because he was unpopular throughout his whole presidency. I think he
Yeah.
barely got past 50% at one point. But I think like Trump overall was the only reason why his popularity was hurt was specific like the reason why he lost specifically, not his popularity, because I think popularity and electability are two different things. I think the reason why again he lost is because of the lockdowns. So, and
I
I
mean,
don't know how you square that otherwise.
maybe, but Kamala doesn't really have that like controversial past or anything like that because she's not been in politics for so long. But she doesn't really have that past, so by nature she's going to be doing better than Biden did,
I guess.
or Trump is
I guess,
doing.
but when I say she's like Clinton, she acts like Clinton. She has a lot of the same mannerisms and same way of speaking
But yeah,
and how she approaches things.
like and Clinton like was like fairly popular with a couple like with some of the demographics. She was extremely popular with them.
Mostly
However,
old white women.
well, white women like millennials, white women in general, fairly like decently
Clinton was
popular.
never popular with millennials.
You don't
Never.
think so?
No. God no.
Okay. Uh, maybe Gen
Millennials
Z.
didn't like Trump, but they
Maybe Gen Z
Gen
then.
Z, are you fucking kidding me? No, there's no way. Gen Z didn't even start voting till after she lost the election.
Uh, what is Gen
Gen Z
Z
only
like?
started voting. They only started voting in like 2020.
No, it would have been like 2016 to 2018 would have been roughly.
Maybe 2018. I don't think 2016. I think
Well, it depends on what you
Gen
classify
Z
as
was.
Gen Z, because some people classify Gen Z as like down to like
I think
96.
after. No, I think after 2000 is Gen Z.
It's weird how because I've seen 2000, I've seen like down to 96, I think. So like around that range would be like the switch between
Well,
millennial and Gen Z.
well. Also, I don't believe generations. I think generations or measuring people on generations is bullshit, anyways. So
I mean, sure.
that's a different discussion. But
Well, we like to
I classify Gen Z as 2000.
yeah, but people like to categorize. It's just kind of like part of our nature. So
Yep, they love to be racist for no stupid reason.
true.
But Clinton was not popular amongst like I don't think I don't think most old politicians in general are popular amongst young people. Like I cannot imagine a world where Biden or Trump are popular amongst young people.
Um, maybe Biden had a little bit, I think. for a period. But
I think Biden was only popular amongst people on the left in general.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
naturally,
people on the
yeah.
left would vote for a fucking. They would vote for a fucking ham sandwich with a D next to it.
Well, I could say I don't see the same thing with Republicans too, like older Republicans. They'd
Not nearly as much. Remember, Trump was kind of an upset against the Republican Party, and like I said, he fought really hard against the Republicans when he first came to power. Now that's not so true. His family has basically taken over the Republican Party, and it's really starting to look like that the Republican Party is just becoming the Trump Party, which is concerning. But
yeah, I
it
mean,
wasn't
yeah,
always like
because
that.
it really is. Yeah, I mean, the entire RNC is now just his family.
Yeah. So I can imagine that it's starting to get, or it probably is that way now, but it hasn't always been that way.
Yeah, but there's just a lot. But like Harris is definitely like pretty popular in terms of like millennials and Gen Z because she's older, but she's not as old and is going to be a lot more
The other
popular.
reason why I don't trust the polls is because Harris barely won her senatorial election, and she was running in California, Southern California, against a Republican because she's from San Francisco, if I recall
Yeah,
correctly, and she barely won that election against the
well,
Republican.
that's the thing.
Like the
You can't
only
really just look at that. You have to look at what's been going on in terms of like Biden and the presidential stuff, and you have to see like Trump is extremely unpopular. Biden was unpopular, so anyone that is going to be switched out is going to automatically receive a massive boost in approval and everything because Biden was so unpopular.
Biden's unpopular now.
Well, I never said he wasn't. He was unpopular. I just said I would have
Yes, you
preferred him.
did. I'm pretty sure you did. I'm pretty
I
well.
said
Okay, if you're saying you would have,
I said I would have preferred him, but I never disagree that he was unpopular president. I just said there's like he may have been popular with specific demographics, but in terms of like like the national popularity, he was definitely extremely unpopular, just like Trump was.
I remember you saying that. Like Biden had XYZ popularity versus Trump and things like that. And
Maybe I said
I mean,
during specific points in his presidency, he may have had like because the approval ratings and stuff like move up and down constantly throughout the entire presidency as things get passed and all this other stuff goes on. Like I'm
dang.
not that happens.
Okay,
There's that natural cycle.
Very, very well. That's not what I remember, but I'll take what you said because
Okay.
I can't say otherwise. So
Yeah, but like currently he is definitely unpopular. I'm not against that idea because it's clearly true. He is just like Trump is. So anyone that like it could have been Bernie Sanders or any other progressive that went. It could have been Trump himself, and Trump would have automatically received a boost because he was so unpopular.
maybe I honestly I'm so the way I see it is that I think Trump is gaining in popularity mostly because of the assassination attempt and things like that.
So there's crazy enough when it comes. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, and no, okay, fine. You go. I'm going to not say anything.
Christ.
Go.
Jesus Christ. Okay. So when it comes to assassination attempts, clearly there's been several assassination attempts throughout history for presidents. And what we've seen is like a sudden jump in approval for like a sympathy vote. But then like over the span of like a month or two, that actually diminishes back to normal levels. So we're far enough away from the election that the assassination is not going to like really play a part in it extensively.
I don't know, man. Has there ever been like anything like this in U.S. history, though? That's the thing.
Yeah, Theodore Roosevelt. Specifically that one.
Theodore Roosevelt?
You can think of Theodore Roosevelt, where he did, like,
Was he running for president?
He was running for president, yes. And then he got shot trying to do a speech. He was doing, I think, the Bull Party, though. He's the Bull Moose Party, though.
Well,
he was running third party.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, it's... Yeah, I mean that's definitely like the circumstances.
Yeah, but you can
different,
see approval jump, like approval goes up, but then over time the approval goes back down to normal levels. We've seen this under Reagan. Approval jumps up, it goes back down. It wasn't during an election,
Reagan
but
was running-
but
Reagan
there's
was
this
running
natural
for-
cycle where there's approval that jumps and then it comes back down after a couple of months. Like this is a cycle that this is very well studied thing.
Okay, but I don't think any of these are comparable because like Reagan was not claiming that the deep state was trying to prevent him from becoming the president and things like that. Like
But thing
there's
is, you have to
so
look at
much
the amount of
more.
people that believe that, and most people don't really buy that anymore. So Trump can say it all he wants.
I don't know.
But a lot of people,
I think it is going that way.
as more evidence has come out since, it's pretty clear that this wasn't a deep state thing, and
No, I'm not saying that it is.
Well, I'm not saying that you are, but he's trying to say that the deep state is after me. The deep state trying to kill me.
No, wait, hold on. I don't think Trump has ever. Has he said that? I don't think he said that.
The deep state is after him.
Well, I know that he said that he thinks the deep state is working against him, but I don't think he said that the deep state is trying to assassinate him. I don't think he's ever said that.
It's almost like an implied thing, right?
Well,
Also, and there's also
are
JD
we
Vance.
in a court of law?
JD Vance reiterates that Democrats try to kill Trump. So,
well, yeah,
there's
I mean,
that,
JD Vance is a little, yeah.
but he's but like
I mean,
he's
that, yeah,
but
I'd
he
expect that
is
from him.
but he is Trump's running mate, right? So you have to expect
Sure.
that people are going to see this. But so like this is something that has been iterated by people under Trump, and if maybe not even Trump himself, but there's been like motions and stuff that Trump has done that has been like this deep state is after me and stuff like this. Rhetoric can make people think that anything that bad happens to him is because of the deep state, including this assassination attempt.
Yeah, I think more people. I like honestly, trust in the U.S. government is so low right now. I would not be surprised if people, even on the other side, agreed with Trump and were kind of hoping for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can clearly see that people are hoping for it. Like that's a pretty clear thing, like you've seen.
Yeah.
But it's not a wide opinion. It's more so like the fringe people on like Twitter or X now, I guess, and maybe even Facebook groups that were like, "Man, I wish this happens." But like most people are like, "Man, this thing sucked. It shouldn't happen." Most people would say that.
Well, I mean, I agree that most people will think that it shouldn't have happened, but I don't disagree with that.
So yeah, like it's just but the rhetoric that Trump has been involved with the deep state is going to it would make people like believe that this is a thing that like people want en masse or that they're trying to do when pretty clearly that is not what's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, the guy was just a schizo.
Yeah, he was a schizo Republican, yeah.
I don't know about that. I think he was just a schizo in general.
Wait, well, like he was. Oh, wait, he was a Republican. He like people in his daily life described him as a Republican. Well, no, I'm not saying as part of. I'm not saying as part of his motivations. I'm just saying because people are saying he was a schizo Democrat, and I'm trying. I want to fight that notion. And say he was actually a Republican, but he was schizo. He was just a random schizo.
Well, okay. Saying that he's a schizo Republican is you implying, whether you mean it to or not, to imply that he had motivations, Republican motivations to kill Trump, when the reality is he was just a schizo who just wanted to kill Trump because he was a fucking schizo.
You know, I'll lay out right here. He was a random schizo, but he would have voted Republican. But he was just a random schizo. I'll say that. I'll say that right now.
Yeah, the party affiliation doesn't matter. If he was a Democrat, it wouldn't matter. Like,
well, yeah, but like the idea though that's been going around, and I think it's still going around, even like almost a month later, that he was a schizo Democrat with like links to the deep state and all this other stuff. And I want to fight that as much as possible and be like, hey, he was actually a Republican. People in his daily life were Republican. His family was Republican who voted Trump, who had Trump banners and signs and all this other stuff. There was a very strong inclination that this guy, or even assumption that this guy is a Republican and would vote Republican no matter what. But he was just a random
Maybe.
schizo, like Ted Kaczynski or whoever, that wanted to
Ted
cause
Kaczynski
mass
Uncle
damage.
Ted was not a schizo. You take that back.
I won't.
But yeah. Anyways, I don't know. I disagree. I think these are we're in all new waters with all this assassination stuff. I think this election cycle is very different, and that's why the polling confuses me in general.
Well, like I said, there's a lot of factors and stuff going on. Like polling, like when Trump is that weird wild card at first with Hillary, that Hillary was really winning in all of the polls. Like Trump should not have won that election, and then he did, against all odds basically. And ever since, polling places have been trying to put in this Trump card to figure what is actually gonna go happen and what's been going on. And it's been 8 years and stuff. So I think by now they've probably figured out the Trump factor enough to be able to factor it into the polling itself.
I don't know. I still think because I think in general right wing people are discounted because because in general right wing people aren't as motivated to participate in politics as left wing people are. Like I said, I live in a very left wing state, and the people around here who are right wing, they're they bitch and moan about all the bullshit of what they say is bullshit of our state government. I mean, I agree with them, but it's incidentally. I agree with them, but they complain about for example, my old boss at the mechanic shop I used to work at, he would complain all day about what the state government is doing, and did you hear the city councilors in Corvallis are like this, blah blah blah. And I would say, and then election day would show up, and I'd be like, "Who are you voting for?" And he's like, "Oh, I forgot that it was voting day." And we get mail-in ballots here in Oregon, so and we've had that since 2000. And he would just forget to vote and things like that, because honestly, I think the temperament of people conservatives and right-wing people is reactionary, and they just want to complain and moan and feel victimized rather than actually do anything about it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that possibly going on, but I would say the demographic that definitely almost refuses to vote half the time or just forgets to would be it's usually the newest generation. So before it was millennials, now it's Gen Z.
Young people. Yeah,
just
I
young
agree.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Who just don't really vote. But I think this election cycle we're definitely going to see a lot more Gen Z and millennials votes than other elections, and it's going to be usually these two different demographics vote for a Democrat, so we're going to probably see a lot of this demographic voting for Harris this time around.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. This whole thing has been wild. I don't know. Did you see that Trump went on that one Twitch streamer, and then apparently Harris has been trying to get on Kai Cenat's stream, and
it was with Aiden Ross,
saying
right?
no.
Trump was with Aiden Ross. Yeah, I saw that.
Well,
it was wild. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, no, it's funny because now they're both trying to covet both demographics, and it's these two fucking old boomers, because Trump is literally a boomer and so is Harris, and they're they're both we need you young people, so we'll do anything to get young people. It's fucking hilarious.
Honestly, I feel like they shouldn't, for both of them, they shouldn't be going on these apolitical people, these people who don't, well, Aiden Ross is very political nowadays. He's very deep in that red pill stuff. But Kai Cenat, I don't know him very well, but he doesn't seem political from the couple things I have seen about him. So if she was going to do anything, she should go. Meme. Yeah, but Harris, if she would do anything, she should go on some Destiny or Vouch or
oh god,
David Peterson.
Not David. She should not go. She should not go on Vouch, because then she would have to discuss horse penis.
not Pearson. Fuck. It's David. I've been watching his stuff more recently. Pacman. That's the
David
name.
Pacman?
Yeah, Pacman. Yeah, which they actually discussed something before. They discussed before. So it'd be interesting.
She's fucking crazy.
But she should be going on these other people who are very political and with audiences that definitely do vote and will vote. She should be going on these people's stuff.
Yeah, well, I think the whole podcasting thing is still kind of seen as overrated by most people. Like it's funny, like people talk about, oh, we live in the podcasting age, yet like you rarely ever see politicians go on to podcasts.
Well, we're seeing that a lot more now because they're all boomers and they don't know what the fuck this is half the time, right? Like, AOC's been
Sure.
on quite a few things, and like was she Gen X?
On
I think it is.
Instagram Live. No,
She's
she's a millennial.
Is she really a millennial? Damn, they're that old, huh?
She's a millennial.
Damn.
Yeah. She's like 34 or something. She's gonna be
Really?
35, so
Wait, is she
could
really
be the
that young?
VP or the P. What? She's like 34 or something.
Jeez, I have not kept up with her at all. Damn.
Yeah.
She could unironically be
Yeah,
president.
she's.
Soon
Yeah,
enough.
well, I mean, I think she turns 35 like after the election, but like, so
Like,
there's a whole.
you need to be 36
There's
to
a whole
be.
No, you need to be 35 to be president.
Is it 35?
And so some people interpret it as meaning you have to be 35 on inauguration day, whereas others interpret it as you have to be 35 on election day. You know, it's all this a constitutional amendment that clarifies.
What would you put it as, though? Which one do you think?
I don't think anyone should be president. So 168. No, I'm just kidding. But
Jesus.
really, I think it. I think if you're, to be honest, I don't like the age thing in general with the presidency. I think that I think if you're eligible to vote, you should be able to be eligible to hold any office. So
Dang, and you know
I would
what?
say
we should give fetuses the right to vote.
well, and so I think my whole going off that if you're eligible to vote, you're eligible to hold office. So I would say, let's say, so because if you're 17 but you turn 18 on election day, I think you can vote. So I think it would be if you're 35 on election day, you can
for election day, yes, but not for inauguration. Yeah.
Or if you're 35 on inauguration day, you can be president. I think that makes the most sense in my head.
Okay. Well, like for voting, I don't think like you have to be 18 by the voting day specifically, not our inauguration day, right?
Yeah, but then I'm also saying what also this implies is that like if you ran for office as a 17-year-old and then on election day you turned 18, you could vote and therefore you could hold any office. So I think as a 17-year-old you could you should be able to run for any office, and then when you hit 18 on election day, you can vote and go into office.
But also you have a disdain for voting in general, so.
Listen, man, like I have to deal with the cards I'm dealt with. Like ideally we wouldn't have government and everyone would be nice and happy, but that doesn't work either because people are assholes to each other.
Yeah, ideally anarchy would work. Yes, ideally anarchy would work, but it clearly doesn't. So
I'm not an anarchist. Well, this is why I'm not a fucking anarchist.
Okay, ANCAP.
Jesus fucking Christ.
At that point, the fucking corporations should become the government. They already basically run as government, so.
No, you know why? You know why? Because Apple would oppress me, so I'd go to Lockheed Martin and I would say, I would like to buy an MQ-9 Reaper to bomb Amazon with, and they would say, how many would you like, sir? And I would say 12 dozen, and then I would use it to bomb Amazon.
True. Just get a nuke and just nuke every Amazon facility.
Exactly. Like nobody would care. But anyways,
I'm actually in the works. I actually have a talk with a very prominent anarcho-capitalist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I managed to get into his DMs, so we
Damn, you slid into his DMs, huh?
Well, yeah, and I was like, hey, I'd like to discuss like ownership with you because I believe in collective ownership and that stuff, and I think it doesn't like contradict anything, and he thinks it does. It's like most ANCAPs, so we're gonna be discussing that at some point, I think.
I mean, collective ownership makes sense if everyone agrees to it. Like, I mean, in theory, like a household, when a couple gets married, they're agreeing to collective ownership over, at the very least, their children.
Yeah, or even just like the stuff in the house. Like the TV. Hey, I want to use this, but
know,
I want to
well, I
use
know, but
this. So
well, I know, but I'm saying at the very least the children are collectively owned by both parents
yeah,
because
but that's
the
the thing is
children
that
are the result.
but that's the thing is
Yeah.
that they believe that every single individual has complete self ownership, including children. So you can never own a child.
Well, yeah, and then it gets into the kind of horrifying thing of, oh, children are immediately their own independent entity, and therefore they can consent. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I did not sign up for this.
I was talking with an ANCAP as well. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I think it was probably 2 weeks because I was in Louisiana for last week. But anyways, we were discussing consent, and
Oh boy.
it was so wild. I was like, yeah, I think this arbitrary age, like that's socially acceptable, which is in the US is 18, is like the consenting age because it's socially agreed upon that, hey, before this point you cannot consent. And we're like, oh, it has to depend on, like the other person was saying, it depends on like how like their mental faculties are, like if they have the ability to consent because they have the ability to recognize like contracts and stuff. And I was like, that's dumb.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the whole mind development thing and the fact that some people literally can't developmentally because they have some sort of disorder or whatever.
Sure, and we have things in place for that already with our arbitrary age of 18.
I'm not saying that, oh, we should lower it because some people
I know,
are.
but
I'm
like
not going to do
but like he was saying it shouldn't exist at all because some people develop faster than others, and I'm like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's what our friend.
He
said.
was even like, I was even asking, like when I was asking questions and stuff, I was like, well, what about this? What about this? He was like, you better not be recording me for any of this. Because I said, because I think my question was like, if like we had a 3-year-old that had the ability to recognize like contracts and stuff and recognize like outcomes, like would they have the ability to consent to like any sexual act? And
Hold on,
he said,
I have a better one. We have a 3-year-old who literally has the brain development. Like we can go to an MRI machine and scan their brain, and their brains literally have the same wavelengths as someone who's like 25. Could they still consent? I would still.
He said, yeah, I would say no as well, because well, they would be taken advantage of because they're still extremely young. And
yeah,
the other dude said yes, they have the ability to consent and can he said like this is not like a realistic thing, but he said yes. And that was just wild. That was wild.
That's fucking horrifying.
Yeah, it was.
Keep him away from the children.
Jeez. And then we started talking about like other things. So he said he was using an anecdote of himself. Oh, I had the ability to like recognize these things when I was like 13. I was like, no, you didn't. And he was like, yeah, I did. And I was like, you still couldn't consent.
You're an idiot at 13. You're an idiot at 13.
Yeah, he was talking about like being homeless and shit. It's actually someone that we both know very well. I'm not going to name drop him until after we're done, but you know him extremely well.
It was, I know who it is. It's McGuire.
Yeah, it's McGuire. Yeah, you're right. Here, actually, I can do it on my phone, and you're like, oh, it's that guy, but the name of the guy, but just like don't say it because I promise I wouldn't record it or anything or name drop.
I just said it. I'm gonna keep saying it.
I'm just gonna DM it to you.
Okay. I don't think I'm gonna be surprised of who it is.
You're not. You're really not.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
the crew strikes again. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You know how those guys always say like, how come it's always the Jews doing it? My question is, how come it's always you guys doing it? What the fuck? How come it's always you guys?
Jesus.
Really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Well,
like no one's gonna know. He's never gonna watch this anyway, so he's not gonna be mad. But like I didn't ever name dropped him anyway, so no one will ever fucking know regardless. But you're not surprised.
No.
Yeah, you probably could have guessed that.
Yeah, he was like one of 3.
Who were the other 2? Wait, is one of them mysterious?
I'm not gonna say it.
It's mysterious, isn't it? Is that one of them?
Maybe.
Yeah, I figured.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He was saying some stuff earlier, and I was like, "Oh man, come on, man!
Oh, don't worry.
Can you for 5 minutes not
we've had
say
long
that?"
we've had long discussions about how he thinks 16-year-olds are like mature and they're breedable.
A developed 16-year-old. Don't forget, she has to be developed.
True, developed 16-year-olds are breedable according to him. Yeah.
Literally, and it's like,
He talks about like, oh, they're of like the ripe age of 16. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, please, just stop.
Can we talk about normal shit for once? Like, fuck.
Can we not talk about the age consent for 5 minutes? He brings it up all the. We'll be discussing Trump and stuff, and he'll bring up the age consent. I'm like, for fuck's sake, man, come on.
Just don't get them like, I don't know, just don't talk about how Trump was like most likely on Epstein Island. Just don't get them on that topic.
I haven't heard that one. I do know he took the flight, but apparently he took the flight with his kids, like when they were young. So
there's a lot of stuff that links Trump with Epstein Islands. Like a lot of the people that were on Epstein Island, like that were like raped and abused, were from like Trump Tower and like several other places that were very Trump related. There was a lot of documents that got released that have the name like blurred out that are like heavily implied to be Trump himself. Like heavily implied. Like it's almost like demonstrable proof. And then there was also,
to be honest, I'm not surprised because I think people who want power tend to be psychopathic. So,
and I didn't know this until I watched someone else, but they had brought up the fact that there was an actual like a court case that got brought up that involved, well, not really a court case, but it was like an inquiry on it that involved both Trump and Epstein raping a 13-year-old. That got, and this was before all the Epstein stuff got released as well. And she had to drop it because there was so much backlash involved with it because it involved Trump and Epstein, who were both at the time popular figures.
Interesting. So you do agree that Trump was popular at one point?
Well, yeah, before he ran for office, like definitely, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was saying when we discussed it, however long ago.
But
that's
like he was popular with specific demographics that grew up with him. I'm saying like my demographic that didn't grow up with him, I didn't know who the fuck he was for most of my life until he ran for politics.
Maybe I still disagree with that. I still think even unless you were really young, I think a lot of people knew who Trump was.
I was born in 02. Jesus. I was
22? Damn, you're only 2 years old?
Yeah, and I have all these complex thoughts. Yeah, maybe I have the ability to consent, I guess. I don't know.
Jesus Christ.
No, I was born in 02. I'm a 2002 baby.
You're younger than my sister, she was born in 2000. That's crazy.
Dang. How do you feel about that?
I don't really care, to be honest. I'm probably in better physical shape than you, so.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
Listen, I may be 30 years old, but I have the body of like
God, you're 30? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You're fucking old.
Yeah, but I have like the body of a 23-year-old, so.
Yeah, my dad has the body of like a 30-year-old, and he's almost 50 now.
Yeah. It's funny, when I first got out of the Marines and I was going to college and things like that, I was hanging out with some vets on campus, and this is how you can tell if someone was shitty in the military or not, because I was like, oh yeah, I love being, active duty, like, fitness was like prime and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, fitness, when you just order Domino's to your barracks room every night and drink all night and, wake up at like 5 in the morning. Well, yeah, and I was like, oh, I didn't do that. Like, I took the fitness very seriously, and I took advantage of all the stuff on base that was offered to me. And that's how you could tell that they were shitty, is because they like were lazy and didn't do anything unless they were told to.
You know what? I may be like, I'm not out of shape, but at least I'm better than a lot of my generation in the sense I can actually do exercises like in like actual like extraneous things.
Well, like the thing about like
I did gymnastics growing up, so like I can like climb things extremely well. I can do pull-ups, push-ups, etc. No problem whatsoever. I don't exercise currently, but like I still can do all these things extremely well.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, you literally change your genetics when you work out. Like you your DNA literally changes and things like that. But this is the thing, is that it doesn't require much effort to get into shape, and the fact that like most people aren't in shape is just a travesty. Like I honestly think I'm beginning to agree with RFK that like there's like this massive systemic problem in America with people being overweight and obese and eating unhealthy and things like that. And I'm beginning to think that's actually a bigger problem than what the marginal tax rate is and things like that, or whether we send money to Israel or Ukraine or whatever.
Maybe. Like there's definitely a lot of stuff going on with fitness that like is lacking pretty clearly. Like there's a lot of stuff that we eat nowadays is banned in other countries because of like the certain ingredients that are involved.
Well, that's what RFK talks about. He talks about how, and I don't like RFK because I think 95% of his platform is bullshit. But I do agree with him on like, and I'm not for government intervention, but like if like literally companies are putting like petroleum products in our food, and it's like, how can anyone think that is good? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like when I go to the grocery store, I am literally the schizo who will pull, like if I'm gonna eat something that I don't eat all the time, I will pull because a friend of mine like recommends I eat it or whatever for whatever reason. I will literally pull the box off the shelf and read like the ingredients, and if the ingredients have like too much bullshit in it, I will put it back. Now I'm not like a purist where like I'm like I can't eat any of this stuff at all, or like have you heard the whole like receipts are endocrine disruptors and so you shouldn't touch them and things like that?
I've not heard of that one. No.
So receipts, heat treated receipts, the ones that like, do you know how a receipt is made?
Well, yeah, it's through heat. Yeah.
Yeah, so the plastic they use to make that, it has like this chemical on it to make the heat treatment work. It has this chemical on it that when it gets in your body, it acts as an endocrine disruptor, which affects your hormones and things like that, and it like creates an excess of estrogen and things like that. And that is true, but the amount that's on the receipt that you handle in your hand is so little that unless like you're a cashier and you're all day handling receipts, it won't be a problem. Like if you handle a receipt like once or twice a day, your body can deal with it. Like you get more endocrine disruptors from doing anything else, like breathing in. You get way more just breathing in like brake dust or things like that um, than the receipts. But there are people who are like that. But like, to get back to what I was saying, I'm like the schizo who's like, if it has too much of that shit, I won't eat it. And a lot of stuff has way too much shit.
Well, yeah,
it's
but like
crazy.
I'm sure there's been like research and stuff involving like receipts and the endocrine disruptors or whatever you said. Like I'm sure there's been stuff on this that shows like, hey, there's like negligible thing, like there's nothing here that would like do anything like en masse for anyone, regardless of how much you handle receipts.
There is some. Well, there is. Well, I mean, the receipts thing is you literally have to handle. Well, like receipts thing, it's like one or two a day won't hurt you, but like 50 a day will. But like another thing is, hydrogenated oils and vegetable oils, which hydrogenated oils tend to be a type of vegetable oil. They tend to come from soybeans. Vegetable oils are seed oils. Sorry, not
the way they oxidize. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're terrible for you, and you can get away with a little bit. Like I eat some stuff that does have seed oils in it, but like most packaged things, like especially like bullshit like chips and candy and cookies, they have a fuck ton of these oils in it, and people like consume that stuff like by the bag every day. And so a little bit every now and then won't hurt you, but like if you're consuming literally bags of bullshit, it will fucking kill you.
Yeah, they're very, was it carcinogenic? Like the way they oxidize, like disrupts like the way your blood and stuff functions, which causes like cancer.
Yeah, well, that's what the antioxidant craze was for a while, like eating antioxidants. And there are problems with eating antioxidants too, but like the reason why people were going crazy for that is because they thought eating the antioxidants would like counteract this, and it doesn't really. And in fact, like I said, it does worse things for you. But like the those seed oils are so bad for you, and like there's just so much seed oils in everything that we eat. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, I know that I've seen stuff over that stuff, and I don't really like it. I do use some seed oils still, or vegetable oils, just like for like minor cooking stuff or like for baking. But most of the time I just have nonstick pans that I use to cook with, so I don't have to worry about using oils.
No. Okay,
No.
honestly, get rid of the Teflon pans. Those are so terrible for you.
I also
Throw
use
them
butter
out.
for
They are
I do use butter for a lot of cooking as well.
Teflon pans are terrible for you. Like on it, like legit. Like seed oils are bad, but Teflon pans are worse. You should get rid of the Teflon pans. I'm not even
Why?
kidding. Because Teflon flakes off, and it's a way worse carcinogen than any of the stuff we've discussed.
Well, it depends on like, isn't it the case that you have to use like metals on the surface for it to flake off to then get in your food?
It flakes eventually.
Well, yeah, eventually, but you tend to see that stuff over, like you tend to
No,
see that and be like,
it flakes off after the first use. It'll start flaking off.
okay.
I would just get cast iron and use that.
I mean, preferably cast iron, sure, yeah, but I don't really. I have some old pots and pans that aren't non-stick, but
or stainless steel.
Yeah. And which case I use butter for that most of the time.
Stainless steel, non-treated stainless steel, or cast iron is all you should be using.
I don't remember where I found like the study for it. But out of all the the oils, like the seed oils and stuff, coconut was actually like the best one. Like it was almost on par with like lard and butter and stuff.
Well, you know why?
I don't know why specifically, but I just know I just remember seeing that.
Because coconut isn't a seed; it is a drupe.
It is a fruit.
No, it's a drupe. It's not.
A drupe.
It's different. Technically, I mean, you know what's even crazier?
What?
Fucking palm trees and coconut trees, they're not a tree. They're a grass.
Isn't a coconut itself the seed?
Yes. So you know the seeds that come off of like grain, like wheat and stuff?
Yeah.
They're literally no different.
Okay. I mean, biologically, like we're all like extremely identical, and there's like outside of our own perception, there's no difference between like a tree and grass or a tree and like an animal. There's no difference other than the categories we place upon them.
Well, there are differences because our metabolic how we metabolize things is different. Like we can't go out in the sun and metabolize the fucking sun.
But categories don't exist in nature, so without anyone to categorize things, then there is no difference between like a rock and a tree or anything like that, because there's nothing there to categorize these different things.
Well, I mean, I agree with you that Plato's theory of forms is horseshit, but there are differences in things. It's just like the massive differences we see between, like, all our bodies are basically chemical reactions at their core. They're biochemical reactions. They're making proteins and stuff. They're synthesizing proteins, but they are essentially chemical reactions occurring, and chemical reactions are just physical interactions between atoms and, you know, the variety of electrons they have and things like that, and it goes on and on and on, and that goes back again. Like we're back to the whole. If you understand the spin state of quantum particles, of these elementary particles that make up like atoms and stuff, in theory, you could understand how you could predict the universe.
Yeah, but like if you get down to it, like the atoms of me and the atoms of a tree or a rock, there is no difference, like realistically, between these different atoms. And it's just the way these atoms form into these like these macro levels, like a tree and a rock.
There are differences between atoms and, you know, us and rocks and stuff. The difference is, like I said, if you get down to the quantum elements, it's like their spin states. In that case, they're all the same.
I'm saying the
atoms,
all the same thing. I'm saying the atoms that make up these. The atoms that make up these different things. The way that they're arranged is what we see on this macro level, and that's how we categorize these things. But if you get down to that atom or quantic level, there really is no difference between these things. It's just the forms that these different things take up, like these
Yeah.
atoms take up, that
Well,
we categorize
yeah.
as different things.
But yeah, I'm literally saying that like in the end, everything is just like quarks, gluons, and muons, and all the standard model particles, and all those are just individual particles with different spin states. That's
Yeah.
the only
So
difference.
yeah, so this gets down to this one specific question, which I have to ask you: what is a woman?
Are black people people? Jesus Christ, we both went for the controversial thing. Yes, black people are people, and women, you define them by their spin state.
True. And they spin left or right, like that one picture.
Yeah. No. I define. Oh, I know what we could talk about the
Oh no.
Olympics. And have you heard the controversies in
I
boxing?
know it. I had this discussion with my parents the other day, and it was literally like, no, she literally has a uterus. She gave birth. This is
Well,
clearly
wait. Which one? Which one? Are we talking about the Armenian, or are we talking about
the boxer.
the Chinese one?
I'm talking about
Well,
I
which
think it's
one?
the
There's
Armenian.
two. There's two.
I think it was the Armenian boxer, the one that knocked out the Italian after one punch.
Okay, she does not have a uterus. Well, she has testicles that never dropped, and she has an inverted penis, which you would think is a uterus, but she literally has a penis. I don't know what I'm saying.
Didn't she? I
this
remember
individual,
hearing, maybe it was the Chinese one, but I remember hearing that she had got
the
pregnant.
Chinese one.
once.
I haven't heard anything about that. I know the Armenian one literally has this whole problem of like they have this like birth defect where they have an inverted penis, and it's because when they were like they have this genetic abnormality where their body doesn't produce testosterone for some reason, and so like when you're in utero, every human being when they're in utero, like the default setting of human beings is female, and the Y chromosome activating the SRY gene, it produces testosterone, which also raises the testosterone levels of the mother too. Interestingly enough, but that's what causes boys to be boys, basically. But for some reason, because of this genetic defect, well, I don't want to say defect because that's kind of a bad thing, but like this abnormality, this person never developed, and so like their body, like I said, all human bodies are like the default state is female, and so like the default form is female. So like you're like everyone when they start out has a vagina basically, but then like I said, the activation of the SRY gene on the Y chromosome creates testosterone, which causes the male gonads to develop and things like that. And this never happened with this person because of this abnormality.
See, I mean, yeah, I know intersex people. Yes, I know that.
Well, okay. I don't like the term intersex because this person is a male. It's just for whatever reason their body's SRY gene never activated for whatever reason.
So
their body was. Oh, go ahead.
All the stuff that I was hearing about, was that the Chinese one, that it was a woman that got pregnant and all this other stuff that has a womb that works?
That might be true too. I don't know as much about the Chinese one. The only reason why I know a lot about the Armenian one is because I'm on this trans server where there's a bunch of trans people, and they were like, oh, the Armenian one, they were saying, oh, she's a woman, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But I read into it, and I almost got booted from the server because I read into it, and I'm like, guys, this person is actually they're a male. They're just like they didn't have as much testosterone developed to be like as male as like I am, but they're still technically a male and things like that. And I just want to say in general, I don't think we should prevent anyone from participating. I think trans people should participate in the Olympics. If it's like I was talking about this with my roommate yesterday. Like it should just be a standard, and if you meet the standard, you should get to participate. And that's what we should do. Like we shouldn't base it on gender necessarily. I mean, maybe we should have like male only, female only, and then like the third option. I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Maybe all different weight classes, right?
Weight classes, whatever. Like I think trans people should participate in the Olympics. Like I don't care that I don't care about the Olympics in general, but like I don't think people should be denied participation just because they have a genetic defect and stuff. That's why we have like the Special Olympics, because we want to make sure that those people can participate too and things like that. And I was actually like really heart touched because I saw a video of a blind woman winning at the Paralympics, and she was like crying and things like that because she won.
Yeah.
I want everyone to like experience that. So I don't
But
think like trans people should be denied from being in the Olympics.
Yeah, and I don't think either. But this person isn't trans. Like, could they have been misgendered at birth? Possibly, sure.
So
But they're not
here's
trans.
the issue. Here's the issue, and it's something I always talk about. We have a definition that is so broad it can almost mean anything. Like, because a trans person can literally be, I am a man, I grew up biologically a man, I have male gonads, and up until 1 second ago I thought I was a man, and then I decided, oh, I am now a female. That is just as much trans, according to the modern perception of it, as someone who literally goes through all of the surgeries and all the hormone replacement therapies.
But
and
the
things
idea
like that.
behind
So
gender
I
is
think
that
we
it's
need
about
new words.
Well, the idea behind gender is that it's about self-identification, right? That's the whole thing with gender. It's a social construct more than a biological one. And like there's some things with biology, but it's more so a social construct. So they're both valid in the sense that they would both be trans because they identify as the opposite of what they were born as.
Well, but the problem is that gender and sex are used interchangeably by both sides, even though like the trans community they'll say sex and gender are two different things, and then they'll go on to say anyone who identifies as a woman is a woman, which
a woman is a gendered term. It's not biological. It's a gender term. Female is the biological term. Male and female are biological. Woman and man are the gender terms.
Okay, that's okay. Fair enough. That is true. I agree with that. But the problem is that like we have intrinsically linked woman and female together, and so something has to give.
I mean, yeah, but language
I would just prefer.
But language changes over time, right? Well, I mean, yeah. There's cis. I mean, yeah. There's cisgender, and then there's like trans, right?
Well, but that's the problem. Is what is trans? Is trans me saying I'm a woman now?
Well, yeah, trans is the identification, right? Cis is that you identify with what you were born as, and then trans is the other, where it's the opposite. You identify as opposite.
I think well, but then we get into the issue of like this Armenian person who believes they are a woman even though they're biologically a man, and participating in the female events at the Olympics as a biological male.
This is more so
all sorts of issues.
Well, this is more so a weird thing in the sense like, she grew up a woman. She always has identified as a woman.
Yeah,
on her birth certificate is a woman. So like everything about her life has been a woman. So this person isn't trans in the sense they identified as the opposite. They've always been this way.
Well, but yeah, sure, but I mean, the issue is that people are saying they're trans, and what I'm saying is this is the issue.
It's a social construct. That's because it's a social construct, not a biological one.
Well, okay, social constructs can be fucking horseshit, like race. Like,
I mean, yeah, but like that's why people are gender abolitionists. Like they tend to be more gender abolitionists in the sense like, gender isn't a real thing that exists. It's a social construct that's bullshit, just like race is. But we use these terms socially for categorization or for clarity or these other things, but realistically, they don't exist.
I think just kind of shooting off the hip here. I was thinking about the Paralympics while you were saying this, and I think one reason why people want like these people from like these not weird, that's an insulting thing to say, but like these different ways of presenting identity in the Olympics is because it's like we hold the Paralympics and the Olympics as two different things. The Paralympics should just be part of the Olympics, and we should have Olympic events for these disparate groups of people.
We should have different categories in the same thing. Yes, I mean, I agree. It's like how like basketball and like tennis and boxing are all different things as well.
Well, and with that, there's no reason that we shouldn't have teams of mixed males and females and whatever. And,
Yeah, we should
I know
base it off a
right-wing
weight
people.
class. Sure.
Well, like for example, we would have there's no reason we couldn't have a basketball game where it's like the men's, the women's, the Paralympics. The I don't know how to. I don't even have a good term for this, but like the gender the gender questioning people, I guess, or the gender
queer.
abstract.
Gender queer.
I guess I don't really like that. But whatever those people are, and then like mixed, like where you can have anyone, I guess. And right wing people would say, oh well, the male teams would just dominate like the mixed and the gender ones, and it's like that may be true, but like I don't see why people can't participate. Like just because the biological men are going to win all these categories doesn't mean that people can't participate in general.
Maybe, but like I don't really see all this trans stuff as issues anyways, because like I said, it's a social thing instead of it's a social thing. Social things don't exist like intrinsically; they have to exist like because something else exists as well, like our perception of these different things.
Yeah, well, and I don't watch the Olympics, so I don't really care.
I mean, I don't either, but like it's just fun, I guess, controversy to talk about. But like,
I know, but what I'm go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
For all things socially, like this person has always been a woman, and regardless if it's female or male, she has always identified as a woman. On her birth certificate, it's a woman. So, I realistically, this is a woman.
I guess I still think that like people I do agree with some right wing people that like we should have men only competitions and female only competitions, and or male only and female only to be specific, and things like that. I'm just saying like we should be more inclusive rather than like say no, they aren't men or women, so they just don't get to come to the Olympics in general. I think anyone should be able to participate in the Olympics.
I mean, yeah, ideally anyone should be able to. Yes, just like Taiwan.
I mean,
right?
honestly, honestly, we should with the Olympics. We shouldn't just have like this is gonna sound crazy, but how like in the Olympics they have they ban performance enhancing drugs and stuff. Like we should have the performance enhancing events where like guys are like jumping like 20 feet in the air because they're just juiced up on TRT and things like that.
I'm with Mike Tyson on this. When it comes to any non-contact sport, steroids should be allowed. But when it comes to like boxing or anything physical, where you're actually like directly like hitting someone, it should be disallowed.
No. We need boxers who they literally punch a hole through the other guy. That's how hard they punch.
Just some like anime shit where it's fucking, was it Ace from One Piece just gets his fucking shit rocked in.
Yeah, like listen, I want to have the deathmatch boxing match because they're punching so hard they literally kill each other.
Jesus Christ, no.
Because they're all juiced up and they're they have ceramic plates grafted to their freaking like skeletons, so they're like Spartans, basically.
It's literally gonna be cyberpunk. We have fucking armor embedded in their skin.
Yeah, literally. Jesus. I think that would be. I mean, listen, like you want to be inclusive, we have to include those people. We have to include
they have to be their own they'd be their own category altogether.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When I say everyone should have their own category, I literally mean everyone.
I should have my own category for being the most retarded person to exist.
Yes. You would not only take home the gold, you would take home the silver and the bronze. You would be on all three podiums.
True.
And for the most schizo, I would take home every award.
I don't know. I'm up there with you on that.
No, you don't have a schizo website though.
True, but I have a schizo podcast.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah. I got you there. Checkmate.
Yeah.
Also, I stream more than you post, so.
Yeah, I've been pretty. Honestly, I've kind of hit a wall with what I've been wanting to talk about. I've been focusing on rebuilding these motorcycles. Like, I got one of my motorcycles up, and now I'm like constantly working on my buddy's bike to like tune it and things like that to make it run right, because he's dropped like $4,000 into this bike and he wants it to run. So I'm like, okay, I need to make this bike run perfectly for him, and it's not running perfectly. And I'm like, oh my, I'm literally like every day, I'm like 8 hours a day at the tuning factory.
Yeah, we've been running for about 2 hours now, and I got seriously pissed. Do you want to end this now, or?
I'm literally peeing right now.
Jesus Christ. Well, I can't do
I'm
that because
peeing.
I'm using my computer, so I can't do that. Excuse me. Shit.
You need a piss jug.
I do need a piss jug. Yeah, I'll get a piss
Need a
bucket
piss-
someday. But anyways, I'm gonna go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, you'll be a true Battlefield player.
True. I'll probably go ahead and end it now. It's been about 2 hours. That's kind of our maximum, anyways. So.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
anyways, it was nice talking to you. You should go kill
Yeah,
yourself.
it was. I'm gonna come and kill you now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll kill myself first. Actually, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. If you hate humanity, you should kill yourself first. Everything
Yeah,
else will
I need
follow.
to be an exemplar. I need to be an exemplar. You're right.
True. Anyways, I love you, man.
All right. Love you, baby.
Yeah. Bye bye.